I was born in Kenya on a farm, and that's basically where I was raised. So the first 15 years of my life, I spent growing up in a magical place. You know, Kenya was just a garden, and with animals and flora and fauna and all around. And I guess one of my regrets is that maybe I didn't appreciate it enough when I was there. And then after that, I went to Australia and I finished my schooling and education. And then I went to sea. I always had a great love of the sea. And in 1984, after a number of different sort of careers and things like that, I was inspired, or we were inspired, to start a project to build a commercial sailing cargo vessel, which we built and was launched in 1984.
Yeah, that was a major environmental project, really ahead of its time, because shipping does take a lot of fossil fuels to keep it all going, and the idea of using wind power has been around, obviously, for millennia, but this was a big idea, and we were totally passionate about it. We'd actually lived on a boat when we first met and sailed across the Atlantic a couple of times, which was my first real introduction to nature and being without, you know, taxis and newspapers and city life, which I'd always grown up with. So, but we had come to really appreciate and want to do something, want to be involved in helping the planet, really, in as big a way as we could.
So we sort of collected some money and we went and built this sailing vessel, which operated for a number of years and in fact was quite successful. But like many projects, it failed because of human relationships. And
actually, our relationship failed, not just because of that, but certainly the project did put a strain on our communication, which became practically non-existent, and we separated. And that was in the early 90s. So that introduced for us a strain of our other business, which is to do with life coaching, because we managed somehow to find a model that helped us understand what had happened, what had gone wrong for us, and brought us back together again. So that whole episode was an important part of our story.
Yeah. And essentially that was a model, a learning about relationships, how people relate, how you work together, you know, what are the blocks to that, in terms of, because, you know, everything's a relationship problem, everything that goes wrong. So, you know, healing relationships is an important thing. And so for 30 years, we've worked on that and continue to do so.
That business is what drew us to Microbz, because Jeff was working with a philanthropist, traveling the world looking for environmental solutions, and came across this particular one, which was microbial balancing technology. And when he came home and explained it, or talked about that particular aspect of what he'd seen, it felt like a really magical moment for us. I remember we were walking out in the countryside, and it just felt like a gut reaction, I guess, to go, hey, this is something that we can be involved in, small scale, really helpful, and an amazing solution in so many ways to so many of the problems that we face.